I'm Jade, 34 years old, and I never thought my own father could break my heart so completely. For years, I worked tirelessly to build my success, eventually purchasing an $830,000 luxury home through my own determination. Despite my achievements, I continued paying my family's mortgage in secret, hoping for acceptance that never came. One fateful afternoon, my father forgot to hang up the phone, and I heard words that shattered my world forever. If you're watching this, let me know where you're from in the comments below, and subscribe to hear how I transformed my greatest heartbreak into freedom. Growing up in Lakeside, a middle-class neighborhood in Grand Rapids, Michigan, my childhood home was modest but comfortable. My father, Thomas, was a construction worker, always talking about the big projects he would someday lead or the company he would eventually start. He had grand visions, but lacked the financial discipline to make them reality. Still, as a child, I looked up to him, believing his stories about how we would someday live in a mansion. My mother, Laura, was quiet and accommodating. She never questioned my father's decisions, even when they led our family into financial trouble. She worked part-time as a receptionist at a dental office, but her earnings went towards supporting my father's dreams rather than stabilizing our household. Whenever I suggested more practical approaches to family finances, my mother would hush me. "Your father knows what he's doing, Jade. Don't question him." I have two younger brothers, Ryan and Scott. From early on, it was clear they were the favorites. Ryan was 3 years younger than me, athletic and charming, but never particularly motivated in school or work. Scott, the baby of the family, at 6 years my junior, was artistic and sensitive. My parents celebrated their every small achievement while my accomplishments were treated as expected, barely warranting acknowledgement. When I won the state math competition in 8th grade, my father merely nodded and said, "That's nice," before turning his attention to Ryan scoring a goal in his soccer game. When I was accepted to all 5 colleges I applied to, including 2 with substantial scholarships, my mother's response was, "That's good, dear, but remember, not all of us are book smart. Don't make your brothers feel bad." I learned early that external validation from my family would never come. Each academic honor, each perfect report card, each student leadership position was met with indifference. Meanwhile, Ryan bringing home a C- instead of his usual D was cause for celebration and a special dinner out. By 16, I had started working part-time at a local real estate office, filing paperwork and answering phones after school and on weekends. The office manager, Mrs. Winters, became the mentor I never had at home. She noticed my meticulous attention to detail and my interest in property values. "You have a good eye, Jade," she told me once. "You notice things other people miss. That's valuable in this business." When college application time came around, I applied to business schools with strong real estate programs. I received a partial scholarship to Michigan State, but would need to cover the remaining costs myself. When I asked my parents if they had saved anything for my education, my father laughed. "College is a luxury, Jade, not a necessity. We need to save what we have for emergencies, and for when your brothers are older." The fact that my brother's future education might be considered worth saving for, while mine wasn't, went unspoken but understood. During my college years, I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. Mornings at a coffee shop near campus, afternoons at the university's admissions office, and weekends at a local real estate agency similar to where I had worked in high school. I slept little, studied hard, and graduated with honors despite my grueling schedule. The summer after my sophomore year, I took a real estate licensing course and passed the exam on my first attempt. With my new license, I could earn commissions on property sales rather than just hourly wages for administrative work. My first commission check was for $3,000 after helping a professor find a condo. When I called my parents to share the news, my father responded with skepticism. "Real estate is risky, Jade. People lose everything in that business. You should find something more stable." That same month, Ryan dropped out of community college after 1 semester, and my parents took the family out to celebrate his new job at a sporting goods store, making just above minimum wage. "He's found his path," my father announced proudly. It was during my junior year of college that I had the revelation that would change my relationship with my family forever. I had just received an award for Outstanding Business Student of the Year, and neither of my parents had bothered to attend the ceremony despite my invitation. As I stood alone after the event, watching other students celebrate with their families, Professor Harrison approached me. "Your analysis of the downtown development project was graduate-level work, Jade," she said. "You have a remarkable talent for seeing both the numbers and the human element in business decisions. That's rare." In that moment, I realized that my worth wasn't tied to my father's approval. The validation I had been seeking from my family could come from my own achievements and from the recognition of people who truly understood their value. It was both liberating and heartbreaking. During my senior year, I made my first real estate investment. Using the savings from my commissions, I put a down payment on a small rundown house near campus. With help from classmates in the construction management program, I renovated it over 8 months and sold it for a $22,000 profit. When I shared this success with my family, my father dismissed it as beginner's luck and warned me not to get too confident. This pattern continued throughout my college years. Each achievement dismissed, each milestone minimized. Yet with each dismissal, my determination grew stronger. I would prove my worth, if not to them, then to myself. After graduating summa cum laude with my business degree and real estate certification, I received multiple job offers. I accepted a position with Westbrook Properties, a prestigious firm in Grand Rapids that specialized in luxury real estate and commercial developments. My starting salary was modest, but the commission structure offered significant earning potential for someone willing to work hard and build a client base. Within my first year, I had exceeded my sales targets by 37% and was named Rookie of the Year. By year 3, I was consistently the top-performing agent in residential sales and had begun working with select commercial clients as well. My income had tripled since my starting salary, and I was carefully investing a portion of each commission check into promising properties around the city. While my professional life flourished, my family continued their pattern of financial instability. My father had left his construction job to start his own contracting business, but poor management and unreliable subcontractors led to client complaints and dwindling work. My mother had reduced her hours at the dental office to help with my father's business administration, further decreasing their household income. Ryan bounced between retail jobs, never staying anywhere longer than 6 months. Scott had enrolled in an expensive art school, but dropped out after 2 semesters, moving back home with significant student loan debt, but no degree. Despite their struggles, my parents continued to support my brothers financially, covering their car payments, cell phone bills, and in Ryan's case, credit card debt. The call came on a rainy Tuesday evening. I had just returned from showing a waterfront property to clients and was preparing a market analysis for a meeting the next day. My father's name appeared on my phone screen, unusual since he rarely called unless a family gathering was being planned. "Jade, we need to talk," he said, his voice strained in a way I hadn't heard before. "The bank called today. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage and they're threatening foreclosure." My stomach dropped. Though I had suspected my parents' finances weren't solid, I hadn't realized things had gotten so dire. As my father explained the situation, it became clear that a combination of his failing business, my mother's reduced hours, and continuing to support my adult brothers had created a perfect financial storm. "We need $15,000 to catch up and avoid losing the house," he concluded. "Your mother and I wouldn't ask if we had any other option." Despite years of dismissal and minimal support, the thought of my parents losing their home was something I couldn't accept. The house where I'd grown up, despite the emotional complications, still held memories I wasn't ready to see erased. "I'll transfer the money tomorrow," I told him. "But Dad, we need to talk about a long-term solution. This can't happen again." My father agreed quickly, too quickly in retrospect, and thanked me with uncharacteristic effusiveness. We scheduled a time the following week to sit down with their financial documents and create a sustainable plan. That conversation never happened. When I arrived at my parents' house with a financial planning notebook and budget templates, my father had a convenient emergency at a job site. My mother made excuses and assured me they would figure things out. My offers to help create a budget were politely but firmly declined. 3 months later, my father called again. They were behind on the mortgage. Again, I paid. 6 months after that, another call. This time, I insisted on seeing their mortgage statement directly and was shocked to discover the monthly payment was nearly twice what it should have been for a house of their size and location. An uncomfortable conversation revealed they had refinanced multiple times, taking equity out of the house to cover other expenses and my brother's financial needs. The outstanding mortgage was now significantly higher than the value of the home. After much discussion and against my better financial judgment, I agreed to take over their mortgage payments. I set up an automatic transfer from my account to theirs each month timed to their mortgage due date. I made them promise this would remain between us, not wanting my brothers to know I was essentially subsidizing the entire family. During this time, my own career continued its upward trajectory. I had been promoted to senior real estate consultant and had expanded my personal investment portfolio to include several rental properties and partial ownership in a commercial development downtown. My commissions and investment returns allowed me to purchase a beautiful home in Oakwood Estates, one of Grand Rapids' most desirable neighborhoods. My new home was everything I had worked for: 3,000 square feet of thoughtfully designed space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a wooded ravine. The gourmet kitchen I had always dreamed of: a home office with built-in bookshelves and a primary suite that felt like a luxury hotel. At $830,000, it represented the largest investment I had made in myself and a physical manifestation of all I had achieved despite the lack of family support. I invited my family for a housewarming dinner, hoping perhaps now they might acknowledge my success. My mother complimented the nice view, but spent most of the evening pointing out things she would have done differently. My father asked probing questions about the purchase price, my mortgage terms, and whether I had overextended myself. Ryan joked about moving into one of my spare bedrooms, while Scott asked if I could help him with the security deposit for a new apartment after being evicted from his last one. Not once did anyone say they were proud of me or acknowledge the years of hard work that had made this home possible. As they left that evening, my father's parting comment was, "Don't get too attached to all this. The market could crash tomorrow." For 5 years, this pattern continued. I paid their mortgage faithfully each month, an expense that sometimes strained even my substantial income. I continued to achieve professional milestones that went unacknowledged by my family. My brothers continued to make poor financial choices while receiving emotional and financial support from our parents. Family gatherings became increasingly difficult as I watched the disparity in how we were treated, despite the financial reality that I was keeping the family afloat. The resentment grew, but so did my lingering hope that someday they would see me, truly see me, and appreciate what I had accomplished and contributed. That hope, however misguided, kept me tethered to a family dynamic that took far more than it gave. The day that changed everything began like any other. It was a sunny Wednesday in April, and I was working from my home office reviewing contracts for a commercial property my team was listing the following week. The spring light streamed through my office windows, illuminating the cherrywood desk where I had signed the papers for my first investment property years ago. My phone rang at 1:17 in the afternoon. My father's name appeared on the screen, and I felt the familiar mixture of hope and apprehension that always accompanied his calls. It had been nearly 2 months since we had spoken, unusual even for our strained relationship. "Jade, good to catch you," he said, his voice carrying the forced cheerfulness that I had come to recognize as a prelude to asking for money. "How's business?" We exchanged the obligatory small talk for several minutes. He mentioned a new project he was bidding on. I shared briefly about a property that had just sold. Neither of us mentioned that I was still paying his mortgage, a subject that had become taboo in our direct conversations. "Actually, I'm calling about an opportunity," he said, finally getting to the true purpose of his call. "A buddy of mine is starting a contracting business specializing in eco-friendly renovations. He's looking for investors, and I told him about your success in real estate." My guard immediately went up. This wasn't the first time my father had approached me about investing in a friend's business venture. The previous attempts had all been poorly conceived ideas with unrealistic business plans. "What kind of investment is he looking for?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "He needs $45,000 to get started. Equipment, materials, licensing. I've seen his business plan and it's solid," my father assured me. "This could be huge, Jade. These green renovations are the future. You could get in on the ground floor." I took a deep breath. Can you send me the business plan? I'd like to review it before making any decisions. My father hesitated. Well, it's not finalized on paper yet, but Jim knows what he's doing. He was a foreman at Miller Construction for 15 years. Dad, I can't invest that kind of money without seeing a detailed business plan. That's just basic due diligence. I explained, though I knew from experience that my father viewed such caution as a personal rejection. This is a time-sensitive opportunity, Jade. Other investors are interested. I thought you might want first chance given our relationship. Plus, Jim is willing to give you a better equity percentage because you're my daughter. The conversation continued in this vein for several minutes. My father pushing me, requesting proper documentation, him making increasingly emotional appeals about family loyalty and missed opportunities. Finally, I held firm. I'm sorry, Dad, but I need to see the business plan, financial projections, and market analysis before I can consider this. That's not personal, it's just good business. I heard him sigh heavily on the other end of the line. Fine, I'll tell Jim you're not interested. I thought I could count on you, but I guess I was wrong. That's not fair, I started to say, but he cut me off. I need to go. Your mother is calling me for something. We'll talk later. There was a shuffling sound, and I assumed he had ended the call. I was about to put my phone down when I heard voices in the background. My father hadn't hung up properly, and I could hear him speaking to someone else. I was about to end the call myself when I heard my name mentioned. Jade said no, of course. My father's voice came through clearly, all pretense of warmth gone. Little Miss Perfect needs to see a business plan. His tone when mimicking me was mocking cruel in a way I had never heard directly. My mother's voice responded through less clearly. I told you she wouldn't help. She's always been selfish, even as a child. I froze my hand hovering over the phone. I knew I should hang up. This was a private conversation not meant for my ears, but something kept me listening. Some need to know what they really thought when I wasn't present. She's nothing but a disappointment. My father continued, his voice becoming clearer as if he had moved closer to the phone he thought was disconnected. All that money and she can't help her own family. A failure as a daughter, really. Sometimes I think she should have never been born. At least Ryan and Scott appreciate what we do for them. The physical sensation that went through me was like being doused with ice water. My chest constricted and I found it difficult to breathe. But what came next was even worse. Remember how she showed off that ridiculous house? My mother added, laughing. As if we'd be impressed by her wasting money on marble countertops and fancy lighting fixtures. The best part is she doesn't even know we refinanced again last year. My father said, a smug satisfaction in his voice that made my stomach turn. Another $100,000 of equity gone. And she's still paying the mortgage like a good little ATM. I heard another voice in the background and realized with horror that my brothers were there too, listening to this conversation about me. Has she figured out yet that I never paid back that $10,000 I borrowed for my car? That was Ryan's voice, followed by laughter. Or the security deposits for my last 3 apartments. Scott added, Man, she's so desperate for approval, she'll pay for anything if you just act grateful enough afterward. They all laughed together, the sound of their amusement at my expense like physical blows. Remember when she invited us to that award dinner thing at her company? My father continued. Going on and on about being top agent of the year or whatever, I nearly fell asleep. I almost told her then that we'd used her college fund for the kitchen renovation, my mother said. Can you imagine her face? Wait, Jade had a college fund, Scott asked. A small one, my father clarified. But we needed the money when you boys were younger. It's not like she needed it anyway. Always going on about her scholarships and jobs. The conversation continued, each revelation worse than the last. They talked about me as if I were a stranger or worse, an enemy who deserved their derision. Years of pretending to my face while mocking me behind my back. Years of taking my money while resenting my success. I sat perfectly still as tears rolled down my face, the phone pressed to my ear as my world collapsed around me. The family I had been supporting financially for years, whose approval I had desperately sought my entire life, had been laughing at me all along. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was probably only minutes, I heard someone say, "Is that phone still on?" There was a shuffling sound and the call disconnected. I placed my phone screen down on my desk and stared out the window at the beautiful spring day, that continued unaware of my devastation. The birds were still singing, the trees still swayed gently in the breeze. But nothing would ever be the same again. For hours after the call ended, I sat motionless in my office chair, watching as the afternoon sun shifted across the hardwood floors and eventually faded into evening shadows. My phone rang repeatedly several times, my father, then my mother, then my brothers in succession, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What could they possibly say that would undo what I had heard? When I finally moved, my body felt foreign, as if I were controlling someone else's limbs. I walked to my bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, avoiding my reflection in the mirror. I couldn't bear to see the pain I knew would be etched there. Sleep was impossible that night. Instead, I pulled out my financial records and began a methodical review of exactly how much support I had provided to my family over the years. The numbers were staggering. Beyond the monthly mortgage payments for 5 years, totaling over $220,000, I had given loans that were never repaid, covered emergency medical expenses, paid for car repairs, and contributed to countless other financial crises. The total sum was enough for a down payment on another luxury home, or to fund a comfortable retirement account, or to start the business I had sometimes dreamed about but never pursued, because my financial resources were constantly diverted to family needs. As dawn broke, I found myself sitting on my bedroom floor, surrounded by bank statements, a newfound clarity emerging through the pain. This wasn't love. This wasn't even family. This was exploitation, pure and simple, and I had allowed it because of my desperate need for approval that would never come. Later that morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years and scheduled an emergency appointment with my therapist, Dr. Richardson. I had been seeing her occasionally for issues related to work stress, never fully disclosing the depth of my family dysfunction. Today would be different. "I've been an enabler," I told her after recounting the phone call and my night of financial reckoning. "I've been paying for their approval, but they were never going to give it." Dr. Richardson nodded. "What you're describing sounds like a pattern of emotional abuse compounded by financial exploitation. The question now is, what boundaries do you want to establish moving forward?" That question lingered as I left her office. Boundaries. The concept seemed foreign in the context of my family, where I had never successfully maintained any. That afternoon, I met my closest friend Amanda for coffee. Unlike my family, Amanda had celebrated every milestone with me, had helped me move into my home, had been a constant source of genuine support. She had also, I now recalled with painful clarity, gently questioned my family's treatment of me on numerous occasions. "I knew they took advantage of you financially," she said after hearing about the call, anger evident in her usually calm voice. "But the things they said." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You deserve so much better, Jade." "I don't know what to do," I admitted. "Part of me wants to confront them, to scream and demand answers. Another part never wants to speak to them again." "Whatever you decide, I'm here," Amanda assured me. "But please don't give them any more money. They've taken enough." That evening, my father called again. This time I answered. "Jade, thank goodness," he said, relief evident in his voice. "We've been trying to reach you all day." "Is everything okay?" The casual concern, as if nothing had happened, nearly broke me, but I held my voice steady. "I'm fine, just busy with work." The lie came easily, surprising me. "Listen, about yesterday, I think we got disconnected. About Jim's business opportunity." He continued talking as if our conversation had simply been cut short, as if I hadn't heard him and my entire family tearing apart my character and worth. In that moment, I made my decision. There would be no confrontation, no dramatic scene where I accused them of their betrayal. That would only give them another opportunity to manipulate me, to turn things around and make me the villain of their story. "I've been thinking about it," I interrupted him. "You're right, it sounds like a good opportunity. Let me look at my finances and get back to you next week." The shock in his voice was evident. "Really? That's great, Jade. Jim will be thrilled. This could really turn things around for all of us." All of us. Not me, them. "I need to go. I have a client calling." I said, ending the conversation before I could change my mind. The next day, I contacted my attorney, Sarah Williams, who had handled my real estate investments for years. I explained the situation and what I wanted to do. "Let me make sure I understand," she said carefully. "You want to stop paying their mortgage without warning, sell your home, move to another state, and ensure they can't find your new address or contact information?" "Yes," I confirmed. "And I need to know the legal implications." Sarah's assessment was straightforward. Since the mortgage was in my parents' names and I had no legal obligation to pay it, I could stop at any time. The payments I had made were legally considered gifts, not loans, since there was no formal agreement in place. My parents would have no legal recourse against me for stopping payment. As for selling my home and moving, that was entirely my right. Sarah recommended setting up a P.O. box for forwarding mail and using a different state for my business registration to make it harder for them to locate me. "The only other consideration is emotional," she added gently. "Are you prepared for the fallout? Family estrangement is difficult even when it's necessary." I thought about the years of dismissal, the mockery I had overheard, the exploitation that had been happening right under my nose. "I'm already estranged," I said. "They just don't know it yet." The day after meeting with my attorney, I contacted Maxwell Davis, a real estate agent colleague who specialized in luxury properties. While I could have listed my home myself, I wanted someone else to handle the showings and negotiations. I needed emotional distance from the process. "You're selling?" Max asked in surprise when I called him. "You love that house." "It's time for a change," I said simply. "I'd like to list as soon as possible, and I'm open to a quick close for the right offer." Max was efficient and professional. Within 3 days, professional photographers had captured my home's best features. A detailed listing was created and a for sale sign appeared in my front yard. We priced it aggressively at $875,000, slightly above market value, but not unreasonable given the hot real estate market and the custom features I had added over the years. The first weekend brought a flurry of showings. I stayed away during these times, working from coffee shops or visiting Amanda. By Sunday evening, Max called with exciting news, 3 offers all above asking price. The highest was from a couple relocating from Chicago for executive positions at a local tech company. They were offering $905,000 with a request for a 30-day close. "They love the house and don't want to risk losing it," Max explained. "They've also included a letter about how perfect it is for their family." I accepted their offer immediately. The quick sale should have brought satisfaction, but instead I felt a strange numbness. This home had represented everything I had worked for, a physical manifestation of my success, despite my family's lack of support. Now it was just another asset to liquidate in my escape plan. While the sale proceeded, I began researching places to relocate. I wanted somewhere with a strong real estate market, where I could transfer my license and continue my career, but far enough away to make casual visits from my family impossible. After considering several options, I settled on Boulder, Colorado. The mountain landscape appealed to me. The real estate market was thriving, and it was nearly 1,000 miles from Grand Rapids. I reached out to several brokerages in Boulder and scheduled video interviews. Platinum Mountain Properties, a well-established firm specializing in both residential and commercial real estate, offered the most appealing opportunity. The broker owner, Catherine Bennett, was impressed with my sales record and experience with luxury properties. "We'd be delighted to have someone with your expertise join our team," she said. "When were you thinking of making the move?" "Within the next month," I replied. "I'm looking for a fresh start." Catherine didn't pry into my reasons, which I appreciated. Instead, she offered practical assistance, connecting me with a relocation specialist who could help me find temporary housing until I was ready to purchase a new home. Meanwhile, the mortgage payment date for my parents' house came and went. For the first time in 5 years, I did not transfer the money. Instead, I set up an automatic transfer for the exact same amount to a new account I had established specifically for my relocation costs. It felt both terrifying and liberating to redirect those funds toward my own future instead of their past mistakes. 3 days after the missed payment, my father called. I let it go to voicemail. "Jade, there seems to be some mix-up with the bank," his message said, voice carefully casual. "The mortgage payment didn't go through this month." Can you check on that when you get a chance? Also, have you thought more about Jim's business? He's eager to get started. I deleted the message without responding. The calls became more frequent over the next few days. My mother tried next, her message layered with subtle guilt. Honey, we're a little concerned because the bank sent a notice about the mortgage. Is everything okay with you? We're worried something might have happened. Please call us back. Then Ryan. Hey sis, Mom and Dad are freaking out about some banking thing. Call them, will you? Also, I might need a place to crash for a few weeks. My roommate's being a jerk about rent again. Then Scott. Jade, what's going on? Parents said you're not answering their calls. Oh, and do you still have that contact at the gallery? I've got some new pieces I want to show. All asking for something. None expressing genuine concern for my well-being. 2 weeks after the missed payment, I received a text from my father that simply read, "We need to talk about the mortgage, urgently." I didn't respond, but I did take action. I had my attorney draft a formal letter which was delivered to my parents via certified mail. The language was professional and dispassionate. This letter is to inform you that Ms. Jade Carter will no longer be making payments toward your mortgage or providing any other financial assistance. Any previous financial support was provided as a gift with no expectation of repayment. Ms. Carter is under no legal obligation to continue such support. Please direct any future mortgage questions to your lender. This decision is final and not open to negotiation. The closing on my house proceeded smoothly. 30 days after accepting the offer, I sat in the title company's office and signed the documents that transferred ownership to the eager couple from Chicago. Walking away with a check for over $400,000 after paying off my own mortgage felt surreal. The money represented both an ending and a beginning. The day before my scheduled flight to Colorado, I received a notice from the post office confirming that my mail forwarding service had been activated. All my mail would now go to a P.O. box in Boulder with no forwarding address visible to the senders. I had already transferred my important accounts online, notified my close friends of my plans, and resigned from my position at Westbrook Properties, citing a need for personal change. The only loose end was the automatic mortgage payments I had been making to my parents. Their next missed payment would trigger a late fee. The one after that would generate a formal notice of delinquency. After 3 missed payments, foreclosure proceedings would begin. The timeline was predictable, the consequences of their financial irresponsibility finally catching up with them. As my departure approached, I felt a mix of emotions: grief for the family relationship I had always wanted but never truly had, anger at years of exploitation, and a growing sense of liberation. I was breaking free from a cycle that had drained me financially and emotionally for most of my adult life. The foreclosure notice would arrive at my parents' house approximately 4 months after I left Michigan. By then, I would be established in my new life, unreachable through any means they knew. The years of taking me for granted, of mocking my success while benefiting from it, were over. They would finally face the consequences of their choices without me as their safety net. My father arrived at what had been my home on a Saturday morning in June, exactly 7 days after I had handed over the keys to the new owners. I wasn't there to witness his arrival, of course, but Amanda, who still lived in the neighborhood, texted me about it later. "Your dad just showed up at your old house," her message read. "You should have seen his face when a strange man answered the door. He looked completely shocked." According to Amanda, who had been walking her dog nearby, my father had stood on the sidewalk arguing with the new owner for nearly 10 minutes, insisting there must be some mistake. The new owner, understandably confused, eventually closed the door, leaving my father standing on the porch of a home that no longer had any connection to me. The desperation in my family's attempts to locate me escalated quickly after that. My phone was flooded with voicemails and texts, each more urgent than the last. "Jade, what's going on? Where are you? The people at your house said you sold it to them. Call me immediately." My father's voice had lost its usual confidence, replaced by something closer to panic. "Please call us, honey. We're worried sick about you." My mother's message artificially sweet, as if we had a warm, caring relationship that justified such concern. Ryan's approach was more direct. "What the hell, Jade, Mom and Dad are freaking out. Also, the bank sent another notice about the mortgage. You need to fix this." Scott tried emotional manipulation. I don't know what's happening, but whatever Mom and Dad did, it's not fair to punish all of us. I needed that gallery connection for my career. I changed my phone number the next day. By this time, I had settled into a temporary furnished apartment in downtown Boulder, while I explored different neighborhoods and adjusted to my new role at Platinum Mountain Properties. The firm had welcomed me warmly, and I was already working with several clients, drawing on my experience with luxury properties to serve Boulder's high-end market. I had also found a new therapist, Dr. Melanie Harper, who specialized in family trauma and recovery. In our sessions, I worked through the complex grief of family estrangement, the guilt that sometimes surfaced despite my rational understanding that I had made the right choice, and the process of building a new life centered on my own well-being, rather than earning approval that would never come. What you're experiencing is common for people who've had to create distance from toxic family dynamics, Dr. Harper assured me. The guilt, the second-guessing, even the moments of missing them despite how they treated you, all of that is normal. Through mutual friends in Grand Rapids, I occasionally received updates about my family's situation. The foreclosure process had begun in earnest. My parents had attempted to secure a new mortgage but were denied due to their poor credit history and unstable income. My father's contracting business was struggling more than ever without my financial support to cover his personal expenses. Ryan had moved back home, bringing his financial problems with him. Scott had taken a job at a local art supply store, apparently giving up on his artistic aspirations in the face of economic reality. The family home, which had been remortgaged so many times it held almost no equity, would likely be repossessed by the bank within months. I received this information with a mixture of sadness and resolution. Their circumstances were the natural consequence of years of poor financial decisions and taking advantage of my success. While I took no pleasure in their difficulties, I recognized that continuing to shield them from these consequences would only have enabled further exploitation. 4 months after my relocation to Colorado, my mother somehow discovered my work email address, likely through an online search or industry connection. Her message arrived with the subject line, "Please read family emergency." "Jade, we don't understand why you've cut us off completely," she wrote. "Whatever you think you heard that day on the phone was taken out of context. Your father was just frustrated and said things he didn't mean. We're about to lose the house. Ryan has nowhere to go. Scott had to give up his art. Is this really what you want for your family?" The manipulation was so transparent it almost made me laugh. There was no acknowledgement of the years of financial support I had provided, no genuine apology for the cruel words I had overheard, just more guilt and emotional leverage. I drafted a response, deleted, it drafted another, and finally settled on brief but clear boundaries. "I heard exactly what you all think of me. After years of financially supporting this family, while being mocked and dismissed behind my back, I've made the decision to prioritize my own well-being. I wish you all the best in resolving your financial situation, but I will not be providing further assistance. Please do not contact me again." I blocked her email address immediately after sending the response. Several weeks later, while I was showing a mountain property to clients, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Jade." It was my father's voice, sounding smaller than I had ever heard it. "Please don't hang up." "How did you get this number?" I asked, stepping away from my clients to take the call privately. "Your old boss at Westbrook." I begged him. "Listen, we need to talk. The bank has given us 30 days to vacate the house." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, surprised by how steady my voice remained. "But as I told Mom, I'm not in a position to help." "We don't understand why you're punishing us like this," he said, his tone shifting from defeated to indignant. "We're your family." "Family doesn't say their daughter is nothing, a failure, or should never have been born," I replied, quoting his exact words from that fateful call. "Family doesn't mock someone behind their back while taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from them. What you did wasn't family, it was exploitation." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "You heard that conversation." It wasn't a question. "Every word." Another pause. "Jade, I didn't mean those things. I was frustrated about the business opportunity. You know how I get when I'm disappointed." I do know. You've been disappointed in me my entire life, regardless of what I achieved or how much I helped. I'm not interested in having this conversation again. Please don't contact me. I ended the call and blocked the number, my hands shaking slightly, but my resolve intact. Returning to my clients, I continued the property tour with professional composure, though my mind was racing with the echo of my father's voice. That evening, I received a series of text messages from unknown numbers, my brothers using friends' phones to bypass my blocks. I deleted them without reading beyond the first few words. Then came emails to both my personal and work accounts, which I filtered directly to trash. The final confrontation came 6 months after I had left Michigan. I had returned briefly to finish some paperwork related to the sale of several investment properties I still owned in the area. Despite taking precautions to keep my visit private, word somehow reached my family. As I was leaving my attorney's office, they were waiting in the parking lot, all four of them looking simultaneously angry and defeated. My father had lost weight, my mother's hair had gone completely gray, and both my brothers appeared disheveled, the reality of their financial situation evident in their appearance. For a moment I considered turning around and going back inside the building, but I had spent enough of my life avoiding difficult truths. I walked toward my rental car, keys in hand. "So this is it? You're just going to walk past your family like we're strangers?" my father called out as I approached. I stopped and turned to face them. "What exactly did you expect? That I'd forget how you've treated me all these years? That I'd forget hearing you say I should never have been born while you were cashing my checks?" "People say things they don't mean when they're upset," my mother interjected. "We've lost everything because of your vindictiveness." "You lost everything because you remortgaged your house multiple times, spent beyond your means, and never took responsibility for your finances," I corrected her. "I supported this family for years while being treated as nothing more than a convenience. That ends now." Ryan stepped forward, his expression a mixture of anger and desperation. "Where are we supposed to go?" "We're staying in a motel that we can barely afford." "The same place anyone goes when they can't pay their bills," I replied. "You figure it out. Get jobs, budget your money, make difficult choices. You know all the things you mocked me for doing while benefiting from the results." "We're sorry," Scott said, suddenly his voice quiet. "What we said was wrong. What we did was wrong. But does that mean we're not family anymore? That we can never fix this?" For the first time, I heard something that might have been genuine remorse, but years of manipulation had taught me to be cautious. "I don't know if this can be fixed," I said honestly. "Trust once broken doesn't just repair itself because it's convenient for the people who broke it. Right now, I need space and time. I need to live my life without being drained emotionally and financially by people who don't value me." "Where are you living now?" my mother asked. "At least give us a way to contact you." I shook my head. "No. If someday I'm ready to have any kind of relationship with any of you, it will be on my terms, not because you need something from me. For now, this conversation is over." I got into my car, locked the doors, and drove away, watching in my rearview mirror as my family became smaller and smaller until they disappeared completely. There was grief in that moment, but also a profound sense of having finally stood my ground. 1 year after leaving Michigan and the toxic family dynamics that had defined much of my life, I stood on the deck of my new mountain home in Boulder, watching the sunrise paint the flat irons in shades of gold and amber. The beauty of my surroundings still took my breath away, even after months of waking to this view. My new home was smaller than my Grand Rapids house, more modest in many ways, but it was entirely mine, chosen for my happiness, rather than as a symbol of success or achievement. The 3-bedroom mountain contemporary design with its wall of windows facing east had spoken to me immediately during my house hunt. At $750,000, it was a significant investment, but one made with careful consideration of my own financial needs and goals, not stretched to impress others or compromised by supporting multiple households. The first few months in Colorado had been challenging in ways I hadn't anticipated. Despite my professional success and financial security, I found myself struggling with unexpected grief over the family I had left behind. Not the actual relationships which had been damaging and exploitative, but the idea of family, the connection I had always hoped might someday transform into something authentic and nurturing. What you're experiencing is ambiguous loss, Dr. Harper had explained during one particularly difficult therapy session. Your family is still alive, but the relationship you hoped for is dead. That creates a complicated grief process because there's no clear resolution. Gradually, I developed new routines and connections that helped fill the void. I joined a hiking group that met weekly to explore different trails around Boulder. I took a pottery class at a local studio, finding unexpected joy in creating functional art with my hands. I volunteered at a financial literacy program for women leaving abusive relationships, sharing my expertise to help others achieve independence. Through these activities, I began building what my therapist called a chosen family. People connected not by blood, but by mutual respect, shared interests, and genuine care for one another's well-being. My hiking group became weekend brunch companions. A woman from my pottery class, Teresa, became a close friend who understood intuitively when I needed company and when I needed space. Professional success came more quickly than I had dared hope. Within 6 months at Platinum Mountain Properties, I had established myself as one of their top producing agents, with a growing reputation for integrity and detailed knowledge of the Boulder market. Catherine, the broker owner, had become both a mentor and friend, inviting me to partner on larger commercial deals and encouraging me to consider getting my broker's license. "You have a gift for this business, Jade," she told me during my performance review. "Not just the sales aspect, but the human element. You genuinely care about finding the right property for each client." I had also begun cautiously exploring the idea of starting my own investment company, focusing on responsible development projects that respected both the natural environment and the character of local communities. The financial cushion from selling my Michigan properties made this dream possible without the stress of immediate profitability. Occasional news about my family still reached me through mutual connections, though I had asked most friends not to share updates unless there was something I truly needed to know. My parents had eventually moved into a small rental apartment after losing their house. My father had found work with a construction company, taking orders from a manager, after years of insisting he should only run his own business. Ryan had finally maintained a job for longer than 6 months, working at a sporting goods chain where his charm served him well in sales. Scott had apparently returned to art school part-time while working, paying his own way through night classes. These updates no longer triggered the intense emotional response they once had. I could acknowledge their struggles without feeling responsible for solving them. I could wish them well in a general sense, without opening myself up to further exploitation or hurt. Exactly 13 months after I left Michigan, I received a letter forwarded through my attorney's office, the only contact information my family still had for me. It was from my mother, handwritten on simple stationery, rather than the elaborate cards she had always preferred. "Dear Jade," it began. "I've written this letter a dozen times in my mind, never finding the right words. There are no right words for the wrong we did to you. After much reflection and honestly therapy of my own, I've come to understand the depth of our failure as parents and as decent human beings." The letter continued, acknowledging specific instances of dismissal and exploitation without excuses or justification. She detailed how my father's constant need for validation had led him to favor my brothers, whose struggles made him feel needed and superior in comparison to my independence. She admitted to the financial deceptions, the remortgaged house, the mockery behind my back. "None of this is meant as an excuse," she wrote. "There is no excuse. I'm writing only to tell you that I understand now why you left and that you were right to do so. We took advantage of your generosity while failing to give you the one thing every child deserves: unconditional love and respect." The letter ended simply, "I don't ask for forgiveness or for you to respond. I only want you to know that one member of your family finally sees you clearly and regrets deeply the pain we caused. If someday you wish to have any contact, it would be a gift I don't deserve. If not, please know that I wish you every happiness in your new life. With love and profound regret, Mom." I read the letter 3 times, searching for the manipulation or hidden agenda that had characterized our relationship for so long. Finding none, I placed it in my desk drawer, uncertain how to respond or whether I wanted to respond at all. It was the first acknowledgement from any family member that didn't include a request for money or help a simple admission of wrongdoing, without expectation of reconciliation. 2 weeks later, I met Michael Carter at a fundraiser for the Boulder Community Foundation. He was an environmental engineer working on sustainable water systems for mountain communities, passionate about his work, and refreshingly direct in his conversation. We bonded over a shared love of hiking and terrible science fiction movies, exchanging phone numbers at the end of the evening. Our first date was a sunrise hike followed by breakfast at a local cafe. Our second was a documentary film about coral reef conservation and dinner at a small Ethiopian restaurant. By our third date, I found myself sharing parts of my story I had previously kept private from new acquaintances, testing his reaction to the complicated reality of my family situation. "That must have been incredibly difficult," he said after I explained my decision to leave Michigan. "But it sounds like you made the healthiest choice possible in an impossible situation." No judgment, no uncomfortable questions about reconciliation or forgiveness, just simple acknowledgement of my experience and respect for my boundaries. It was refreshingly different from previous relationships where partners had pressured me to work things out with my family despite the ongoing harm. As the months passed, Michael became an important part of my chosen family, along with Teresa Catherine and the close friends I had made through various activities. We celebrated holidays together, supported each other through challenges, and shared ordinary moments that accumulated into a tapestry of genuine connection. On difficult days when doubts crept in, when I questioned whether cutting off my family had been too extreme, I reminded myself of what Dr. Harper had told me. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. You didn't abandon your family, you stopped allowing them to harm you. The truth was that leaving had been an act of self-preservation, not revenge. The fact that my family faced consequences for their actions without my financial safety net was simply the natural result of their choices, not my vindictiveness. 2 years after leaving Michigan, I received another letter from my mother. This one was briefer, simply letting me know that she had left my father and moved in with her sister in Florida. "At 62, I'm finally learning to stand on my own 2 feet," she wrote. "I think of you often and hope you're well." I sent a brief reply through my attorney. "I'm glad you're taking steps toward independence. I'm doing well in my new home. Take care." It wasn't forgiveness exactly, nor was it reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement that people can change, that growth is possible, even after decades of destructive patterns. Whether this would ever lead to any form of relationship remained to be seen, but I no longer felt the anxious need to either sever all possibility or rush toward reunion. The most profound realization I had come to over these 2 years was that family is not defined by blood or obligation, but by consistent patterns of respect, support, and genuine care. The people who celebrated my successes without resentment, who offered help without keeping score, who valued me for who I was rather than what I could provide, they had become my true family. As I stood watching the sunrise from my deck, coffee in hand, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal that day on the phone had been devastating, but it had also been the catalyst for building a life aligned with my own values, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated my existence. Sometimes the most painful moments lead to the most necessary transformations. Sometimes we need to lose what we thought was family to find what family truly means. The journey isn't easy, and the pain doesn't disappear overnight, but with each passing day, the weight becomes lighter, the path forward clearer. The freedom I had found wasn't about distance or finances, though both had played their part. The true freedom was internal, the liberation that comes from releasing the desperate need for approval from people incapable of giving it, and instead building a life filled with authentic connections based on mutual respect and genuine care. That perhaps is the most valuable lesson in all of this. Family is not who you're born to, but who treats you like you belong. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is walk away from those who hurt us to make room for those who will truly love us as we deserve to be loved. If you've ever had to make the difficult choice to distance yourself from toxic family dynamics, know that you're not alone. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with family members? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose your own well-being. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that your worth is never determined by those who fail to see it.